one thing for sure the administration is very keen on is to vote on these global agendas that it really makes no sense. Jacob talked about the UN and how they turn against Israel. Well, now Biden supports the UN. Take a look at this. It is the Global Complex Shocks, which means that the UN can basically seek emergency powers, permanent emergency powers, with this pact to the future. Not back to the future like the movie, but pact for the future, which is basically they can take over any nation if there is a complex global shock. And this is very similar to the WHO, who wanted to take control to that treaty. But the UN is outlining a reaching plan that is going to be far more reaching than the WHO. The proposal will be the biggest power grab, I believe, in the history of the UN. They've known for several bad things throughout their history that started around 1948. If the U.S. and the Biden administration passes this, which, by the way, will be 2 months before the election, or if we're going to have an election, September 2024 will be the time where this summit to the future will be taking place, and the UN will be voting on this agenda that was basically going to give them power. What do you guys think about this power? And Biden is all over this. This is a great thing to give the UN emergency powers. I mean, we know what governors and MPs did with emergency powers throughout the lockdowns. What do you think the UN is going to do? Jay, we'll start with you.
Well, this is obviously one step closer to a world government, which everybody on the left dreams of, as if it's going to be some kind of utopian society. I think of, of course, 1984. The only measure I think that can actually prevent this is the further. Unfortunately, I'm going to say this also in a preface with unfortunately, the only countermeasure to this is the proliferation of nuclear weapons to small countries, so that they have an ability to resist.
A
tyrannical world government, because at that point it becomes a mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, this is supposed to be for a finite period, right? I don't think the UN ever had power and never gave it back. David Lister, what do you think? This is as far as tyrannical, as Jay says, we have ever seen the UN. The UN has gone far. It went into Uganda, it went into Africa, went into Europe, some European countries. Now they're going globally.
They want to come to America and control America. What's interesting, if they sign this pact, here in America, American troops are not allowed to be used on American soil against American citizens. But you could have, if American troops are put into as a peacekeeping force into the United Nations and acting as that, would it be possible for American soldiers to turn on Americans? It could be under the cover of this. It's very possible. But it's also allowing other troops to come in.
Yes.
I know several people have already said Chinese shock troops are already in America coming across the border. So they'll be staged and ready to go and act as an army, and they could bring troops across if America falls down and decides that they want to comply with this. Now, of course, Biden wants this, and it sounds like it's an act or a pact instead of a treaty.
Right.
And, and so if they implement this in an overnight situation, it would be hard to turn back. They sign it, and then all of a sudden we have a new pandemic.
Yes.
And just happens to show up about the same time. It could be very, very bad. But then we have to remember this time is different from all other times. We're now seeing the ability of governments to control its people's movements, to control people's speech. This is rapidly being accelerated by AI, which I think we're going to be talking about later. That you have so much that you can be controlled by. not only our First Amendment would be gone, or they could somehow stop. They can't take away people's guns, but they can stop their movement. They can stop the buying of ammunition. There's so many things that they're going to be able to do that will make this time different in an end time scenario for the coming of our Lord, and the control of, like with the 15-minute city. I'm sad to say that Chattanooga, Tennessee, has become one of the first two cities that will be a 15-minute city. We were down there recently on a fellowship drive, and we saw the streets being narrowed, and the bicycle lanes and the pedestrian lanes, and and just all of the wokeness and everything. And so they're getting ready. I hate to see it. It is a great city. Chattanooga is wonderful, beautiful, but this stuff is coming, Christians, and we better be awake. You better be getting ready to face persecution or limitations of our lifestyle that will be different than any other time. Like we've said multiple times here, Jacob said this, that the world governments want to be in control and create a feudal state, wearing sensors, wearing uniforms, where you will fall in line or you won't be in any line, or you won't be here anymore. So may the Lord come quickly and sustain us and give us wisdom for the coming dark days.
That's right. That's right.
Marco, if I may, I just have a question going back to your original question. Yeah. You said that Biden's all for this UN takeover, basically. My question to you and to everybody really is, in his entire career, has anything that Joe Biden has liked really done anything good for any of the people that have to live under him?
No, absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
The thing with it too, it's kind of like, it's supposed to be September of 2024 next year, before the election comes in.
That's a great point.
They can declare an emergency for any number of reasons. It doesn't have to be a pandemic or anything like that. All there needs to be is a little bit of civil unrest, and they can call it an emergency situation where the UN will step in, take control. The elections would be cancelled. Biden would stay in power. Not that would mean anything, because it'd be all submissive to the UN. Another thing to realize too, if you read the language, it's the same language used by the World Economic Forum. And it's all a part of their, whether they call it our Common Agenda program.
Yes.
But again, they use the stakeholder capitalism type of language, The UN would bring together the stakeholders of the world, including academics, governments, private sector actors, and international financial institutions. The financial institutions are included in this to ensure there is a unified global response to the crisis. It's basically giving total control, total nation sovereignty over to the UN, and they can just keep extending the emergency for as long as possible. Also, you've got to look at the WEF and the WHO and the UN. Who is on back of all of these things? Well, ultimately, we know Satan is, but also look at the major role that China is playing in this. China is taking a big lead in all three of these. China is constantly being praised up by people as being the role model for this. They were praised up by Klaus Schwab for being the role model in the pandemic last time, when eating dogs to death and cats on the sidewalk, were dashing them against the walls, locking people up. Their suicide rate was incredible. That was a role model. And we know it's only going to get worse. That should be a warning to us. Look at the human rights abuses of China. Who else is on the UN Human Rights Committee now? North Korea, Iran. The UN really has no credibility, but nations who are willing to submit sovereignty to this, it's got to be blindness. Yeah.